my agent calls up and says, "So, you have a callback for Blue Dawn, and it's a producer and director session, and so they'll be there on your Zoom audition." And I thought, "What the hell is Blue Dawn?"
Hey, welcome back to the ScreenCrush Crossover Universe podcast. I am here with my co-host, Heather Antos.
And I'm here with my co-host, Ryan Airy. Ryan, how the heck are you?
Heather, it's great.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, these release a week apart. We saw each other a couple of days ago when we interviewed Mark Wade, which was awesome. Found out, like, they played back the audio for me. I'm like, what the hell's wrong? I was going off this audio instead of this audio.
Oh, man.
This guy. So if you listen to the Mark Wade podcast, I'm sorry. So honestly, though, that's the only road bump I've had lately. We've got a lot of stuff we're really excited that we're working on. I'm excited to see Weapons. That's coming out this weekend.
Yeah,
a
that
lot of people
looks,
talk.
the reviews for that are like incredible.
I am happy because I have not watched a trailer for it, and I never get to do that. So I get to go in completely blind.
That's cool.
You know what? You know what I did that with? I did that with Last Jedi. I did not watch a single trailer, and that was hard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To not
I
do
bet.
professionally. I remember my wife, like, and when it would come on in the theaters, I would, put my hands over my head, and my wife would just kind of go like this while I hummed to block out the sound. But I went in completely blind. You ever done that?
That's actually a feat. I mean, obviously for nerd stuff, it's really hard for me to go in completely blind on because that's my world, my job. I'm sure you can relate. But yeah, especially very early on when I was working on all the sequel era stuff for Star Wars, right? I knew everything well in advance of time. I had seen the scripts, I had seen the style guides, I knew who lived, who died, all the things, right? And so, it was very difficult for me to like go in blind to anything. So there was definitely a few years there where I stopped watching trailers. And I can't remember what film it was specifically. It was a Miles Teller film that came out around 2017. He was like a weapons dealer. It was like
I
a
remember that
comedy.
movie.
Yeah.
With oh my God, completely blanking on the guy's name from Superbad.
Yes. Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. The comments light up.
Yes.
I can't believe this guy doesn't
Jonah
know
Hill.
who Jonah Hill is. Yeah.
But yeah, so for instance, like that was one that I went in completely blind for, and I really enjoyed it. It was super fun. And then afterwards I went back and watched the trailer, and it was one where I'm like, had I watched this trailer, I never would have seen this film.
Trailers aren't good, man.
No.
I remember like the trailer for the Iron Giant gave away that he can fly, but Brad Bird's original teaser trailer for it was great. They put it out on the DVD back when DVDs used to be cool. I haven't been like, high school was just that. High school was always, I saw like The Rainmaker, the Matt Damon movie before he was famous, because I was like, well, there's nothing else playing, so I guess I'm gonna watch Father of the Bride 2 or like whatever happened to be going on, because you're a teenager and you got literally nothing else happening.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I watched last night. I don't know what you're watching right now. I checked out the first episode of Lord of War, the Jason Momoa movie or show. Have you seen that yet?
It's the Apple, right? It's Apple TV.
It's Apple TV Plus, who are not sponsoring this video.
Yeah.
It's about Hawaii, I think late 17th century, late 18th century. So so far it's all Hawaiians. There's no white people in it, and it's even subtitled. So they're all speaking in like the native Hawaiian language. And it's great. I mean, the guy, Jason Momoa, co-wrote the first episode. I think he directs some episodes later on. You can tell it's a passion project. And again, because it's subtitled, it's really nice to have something to watch where you're not able to be on your phone.
Yeah.
Where if you want to watch it, you have to engage with it directly and read it. So I recommend that. Do you even have time to watch things that aren't work related?
Yes, but usually it's trash TV or like documentaries. I've seen every episode of every Housewives there is. But no, this weekend I actually binged The Hunting Wives on Netflix, which is not reality TV, but excellent trash.
Okay.
It's basically making fun of tongue-in-cheek of like Texas society and the patriarchy and everything down there, but it's kind of like a murder mystery of a group of housewives
Okay.
down in Texas.
Wait, if you watch reality TV, have you ever watched The Traitors? Which
Oh,
I did.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, The Traitors is like, in the American version, is like the Avengers for reality
Yep.
TV because they gather these people from other shows. We're watching the UK version now, which is just regular
Yeah.
people off the street. I like that better, like personally.
Yeah, and they did a blend, right, in season 1. They did a blend of, of the American version where it was, like, normal people mixed with reality TV people,
Oh, I haven't seen that. Okay.
and I wish that I liked that blend of, like,
Mm-hmm.
"I'm a fan of you, and I've been watching you," like, I've watched you, like, destroy all these people on Big Brother, whatever, and that was really cool, but, of course, in America, we love to just keep giving celebrities more and more platforms. Now on game shows, reality shows, who wants to be millionaire celebrities now?
But even people who haven't really earned the right to be a celebrity.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to all the I'm sorry to the probably one reality star who watches this podcast, but like, you're not really like, you haven't done anything to earn it, in my opinion, because reality shows aren't reality shows. I mean, they're written, they're acted, they're scripted, and they put on that appearance of acting. But I'll tell you somebody who is an actor
Oh?
is today's guest.
Oh, I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped.
The reason I'm a little off today, just so you know, is because I was like, I can't believe I get to talk to this guy. I mean, this is not just on a level of like an actor, but also just as a person and what he means for the geek culture. So this guest today is a fellow YouTuber. He is the host of the Bitter Asian Dude YouTube channel, which we'll link below. He's an actor of TV and film. He broke through on that 90s classic Harriet the Spy. But he's also celebrated for playing Appa in Kim's Convenience, a role that has won him 4 of the Canadian Screen Awards for Best Actor in a Comedy Series. Recently, he also brought to life one of the greatest animated characters of all time in live action. He played Uncle Iroh in the new live-action Avatar series. He's also a card-carrying member of the 501 First Legion. Most ScreenCrush fans, of course, know him from Star Wars, The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett. This guy is an action figure. Please welcome Paul Sun-Hyung Lee. I am beyond happy to be talking to you right now. This is
Wow,
incredible.
thank you so much. What an intro.
And not the action figure version. This is the real version.
That's right.
That's right.
Heather
That's right.
said, "Can you write the intro for him?" And I was like, I'm nervous about that. So
Oh, God.
I stressed
killed it.
about
You
it way too much.
You did so great.
I thought it was
Thank you
great, man.
so
I'm
much.
blushing.
That's why I was nervous earlier. I was like, okay,
Oh,
we
no.
gotta get this intro good. So
Right, you
there we
nailed
go.
it.
And now
You
the
nailed it.
laptop can go away. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, we're big fans of you, all of your work. But, first, before we dive into all of that stuff, you yourself are a huge fan. You're a huge nerd. You're a huge collector, as we might
Yeah.
see behind you.
What, this little thing? I just sort of put them up.
Yeah, for an Easter egg guy, your wall is a nightmare for me. Yeah, because I'm like looking at your wall going, I wish this was in focus because I'm trying to figure out what the shapes are.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I am a card carrying nerd. I've always been a nerd growing up. That's like all these things really spoke to me as a kid. Growing up in Canada, I am Canadian, and I live here. And we immigrated to Canada. My family moved here when I was 3 months old, and so growing up, it was one of those things where my parents, being immigrant folks, they had to work all the time. It was my sister and I just sort of left to our own devices because back then you could leave kids home alone. And the TV was my babysitter and my best friend, and so I learned and fell in love with the craft of storytelling. And the shows that I gravitated most towards were sci-fi shows and westerns and Gilligan's Island and all these crazy sort of pop culture shows from the 70s and 80s. And so that just sort of leaves an image on you. And these are the things that I love, and I'm a huge I've always been a fan of these things. Going to cons has always been my jam. Yeah, it's like I'm living the dream because now I have TV money to back up
Yeah.
my collecting habits.
Your bad
and
habit
whatnot.
in the
But
background. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's like reliving my childhood and enjoying the nostalgia
Yeah.
and spreading that joy and community building like you guys are doing with your podcast and reaching out and finding fellowship with other people who love the same things that you do or are curious about what you're into and want to learn more about it. And I think that's what fandom really is
Yeah.
finding something that you love and sharing it with as many people as you can, because you meet new friends that way.
Mhm.
You learn new things. You can educate. You can, it's just really, really great fellowship. And yeah, it's something that hence my YouTube channel as well,
Yeah.
where I just, I open up these collectibles and we chat. And that's the big draw, is everybody sort of congregating together and sort of sharing this experience. It's great.
Well, speaking of fellowship, who's your favorite member of the Fellowship of the Ring? Now I gotta know. Now I gotta.
Oh, that's such a hard question. Uh, it's funny because everybody sort of defaults to Sam, right? Samwise,
Sure.
and he's great, solid choice,
Rudy.
really, really awesome.
I mean, Rudy.
Right?
Right. Mikey. He's Mikey.
Sean Austin.
Yeah.
There you go. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
to me, he's a Mikey,
He's the guy who he just spits inspirational speeches in the street to people who he passes.
I
right?
grew up just outside Notre Dame, so he's Rudy. Like, he's celebrity.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Rudy. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So yeah, solid choice, Sean Astin. Obviously, I grew up watching his work, watching him grow up too, and he's began as a great actor. He's still a great actor, and he's more matured. So that's lovely too. Love
And a
the
great
character.
guy. Great guy too.
Okay.
Just so we throw that. Yeah. No. Just so you know. Yeah.
Nice. I bumped into him at a couple of conventions and stuff, but he's always so super busy, and he always gets swarmed.
Yep.
Right. So I give him his space. Like when he's in the green room, I kind of try to pull back a little bit, because I know sometimes your social battery, you don't mean to, but it depletes, and you just need that time to sort of recharge and stuff like that. But he's always been absolutely a gentleman to everybody behind the scenes, which is great. It's really like it's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite. I'm kind of always been partial to dwarves. So Gimli,
Okay.
I played a dwarf. We did a version of The Hobbit on stage in my youth when I was a younger actor.
Interesting.
I played a number of dwarves, and I kind of had to get into the mindset of. So I played Bomber,
Okay.
the dwarf. And so
Okay.
I have an affinity towards that, and I love the sort of the pureness. And John Rhys Davies, who played him, was superb. There's a softer side to dwarves that I think aren't played up, like that whole bit when he asked for the lock of hair.
Yeah.
It was just lovely, and he's got that soft side, but he's also got that cantankerous sort of rough side. So the competition between him and Legolas is a lot of fun to watch. He's often kind of underestimated. I love underdogs. I love underdogs.
And just to rewind for a second, when you did the production of The Hobbit on stage, was it the Rankin Bass version with the music?
No,
Ah.
it was
Oh,
not.
I
This
was
one-
gonna ask if
I-
you guys sang.
I was
Yeah, if
gonna-
you had the
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah, I
There
wanted
were
to hear
songs.
break
Oh,
the
there
dishes,
were
crack the
songs.
plates. Oh, but just not
There
those
were
songs. Okay.
songs, yeah.
All
So
right.
that version was
What is
commissioned
this
by
version
Kim
of The
Seledy.
Hobbit?
What's that?
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
I've never heard of this version of The Hobbit.
It was commissioned by Kim Seledy, and he was one of the first to get permission from the Tolkien family
Oh.
to do that.
Oh, okay.
And his version was it was for younger audiences. So they had a narrator who came in and would, gather around the fire, and I'll tell you the story and this and that. And the version
cool.
I did was an adaptation of that, where they aged it up. So the character, the narrator was removed, and it became more of the tale of the journey to get the Arkenstone away from Smaug. And we played. So there's a theater in Toronto called Young People's Theater back then, and that is an institution. In fact, the actor who played Bilbo Baggins is now the artistic director. A good friend of mine, Herbie
Oh, that's
Barnes.
fun,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is a show that when we both met and worked together, and it was a lot of fun on that. So a lot of great memories. But this was a version that was adapted and was a smash hit for the theater. And we actually went on tour across Canada
Oh.
with this show, and it's it runs for it's a marathon of a show. It runs for about an hour and a half. There are only 8 cast members, and 4 of us had to play all the dwarves.
Oh my
And so
God.
there's that introduction when they're coming into Bilbo's home, and we all had to like come in, go down, like we were stacked up with costumes. So we would run off stage, rip off one layer, run back upstairs,
That's like a
come through
farce.
with another one,
Like.
and it was
Yeah, it sounds like the 39 steps.
Yeah,
Oh, it
exactly.
was crazy.
Yeah.
that very much like that. So it was a really great workout, but it was a fun show to do, and the audiences, the kids especially, loved it.
Yeah.
When Gollum came out, there were a lot of wet seats because a lot of kids peed their pants. When he came storming out, it was a great jump scare. But yeah, so I've always had an affinity towards the
Yeah.
dwarves, having had to play one. And again, people who are often underestimated, I find an affinity towards, because that's been my career.
Yeah.
That's been my life. People sort of taking a glance and dismissing and kind of going, meh, and not really taking you seriously. And I'm happy to say that that's provided me with fuel in my career and
Yeah.
my life to just sort of prove people wrong and say, hey, you know what? You can't judge a book by its cover. You can't be so dismissive of anybody, really. And you've got to give people a chance, like a real sort of opportunity to look at them and see what they're about. And so that's why I'm a huge, huge, fan of underdogs,
Yeah.
underdog stories and whatnot. And like in baseball or hockey or sports or life.
Rudy.
Yes, Rudy,
Mhm.
right?
It comes back to Rudy.
Yeah, I love seeing the underdog succeed
Yeah.
and to just show like, you know, hard work does pay off. If you have heart, that pays off.
Yeah.
You have to be very fortunate, but I think you make your own fortune too by being prepped for that moment. So
And it's got to be pretty incredible, right? To grow up being this nerd, this fan, and now you've got to play the live action version of one of the most popular characters in one of the most popular cartoons of all time. You've got to create a new character for Star Wars, Kim's Convenience, which started as a play, I believe, right?
yes,
And then
Oh, were you Mr. Kim in the play too?
I originated the
Oh, okay.
role, helped develop it. We did the workshops for it. I
Right.
was up until a year ago the only actor to ever portray him on stage because it was
Wow.
Oh,
just
wow.
yeah. And so it's a tough it's a great part, but it's a very difficult part to cast because you need
Right.
an older Korean man to play it, and there aren't very many older Korean actors out there who can. And it's an interesting thing because there is an awful lot of the stage play is very different from the television series.
I was gonna ask, yeah, what I've never read the stage play, so can you give us a brief rundown?
It is a much darker version of the
Oh
family.
no.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow,
It's like they're
really?
much older. They're in their 60s. They're running out the clock. The family is fractured. Jung has been gone away from home he's run away. It's been 16 years since they've seen him,
Oh my God.
and it's a day in the life. And basically, what happens in the play is a Walmart is being built in the neighborhood, and a real estate friend of the Kims comes by and offers to buy the store. Because he said,
Mhm.
Walmart's going to wipe you out, so I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to buy your store, and then you can retire. And it's a princely sum. Uh, but it becomes an issue of legacy for Appa because he spent
Oh.
30 years working on this store, and if he just sells it, he figures, what do I have to show for it? So for him, it's this whole journey of, well, what's my legacy? And Janet is still living at home. She's in her 30s. She's struggling as a
Wow.
photographer. And so he figures, I can kill two birds with one stone. I will pass on my legacy to her. She will have a solid source of income that will help her and keep her alive. And hey, it's win-win. She wants nothing to do with that. So
Mhm.
the play's about him trying to convince her and reopening old wounds and the whole idea of you owe me this or you owe me that. And it's a beautiful but really, really harsh kind of story because
Yeah.
Appa in this version, he's a bastard. Like he is a mean, cantankerous
Yeah.
old guy who's just running out the clock. He's bitter at the world. And the racism comes out,
Mhm.
the homophobia, like he's
Mhm.
that you see on a TV show, except much sharper.
How did the change to the TV show happen? Because in the show, well, I mean, we were talking about this before we roll it. We can talk about it again. In the first
Yeah.
episode, you see immediately this, like you mentioned, the racism, the
Mhm.
homophobia, if you want to talk about that, and then his softer side. So, how did that transition happen, stage to screen?
It was one of those, and I think it was a smart choice to make. They younged down the family by about 10 years. And that made it more sort of accessible for a broader audience to sort
Mhm.
of come along. Because this was a show that there was not, to my knowledge, other than Fresh Off the Boat, but in Canada, it was the first show with an all-Asian cast that was a comedy. And we wanted to sort of, you wanted to cast a wide net, which is why the parents never spoke to each other in Korean. I mean, this is something that we discussed. It was like, well,
Hmm.
why aren't Appa and Oma when they're by themselves speaking Korean? Like we were willing to do that. We wanted to do that to add a sense of authenticity to the show. But we were told, no, no, no. The season one, you want to bring in as many people. You don't want people to feel like sort of shut out or like there's a barrier, there's a language thing. I don't want to do that. So that's little concessions were made in an effort to broaden the audience and to bring them in. And so we younged down the family. So we had a younger son, a younger daughter. So that was more of an appeal to the younger audiences. And we softened the characters a little bit because they weren't at that point in the journey where everything was so broken down, everything was so hard that, life hadn't beaten them up by that point. So there was a softer version of them. Also, because it was supposed to be a family sitcom, they lightened
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean, there's still a lot of cutting humor in it. It's just not as kind of sharp as the play. The play, there's some moments. I mean, season 1, we had a lot of elements of the play that were incorporated into season 1, but it didn't have the same sort of bite that the play did, right? And so that was basically it. And so we gentled down the characters, and it was like this whole idea of now I called them Appa Prime from the play,
Yeah.
and the Appa TV Appa, and they start at the same point, but they diverge because the amount of growth that you see from Appa in the TV
Mm-hmm.
series, he could never ever get to the point where Appa in the play is at,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of like that Star Trek universe where they're sort of running
Yeah, like the
along.
Mirrorverse or the timelines
Yeah.
that are, in various.
Now, which version of Kim's Convenience takes place in the 616 universe? That's the
Oh, that's a good question. That is such a good question.
Hmm.
How would I answer that? Because there's so many great arguments for both. My initial gut reaction would be the play because that's the original, right?
Right.
And then the TV version would be in one of the alternate ones, but the 616 which is the prime one, I think it would have to be the play just for
Okay.
that reason alone.
I think the first episode of Kim's Convenience is one of the best pilot episodes I've ever seen.
I agree.
I mean, I
Thank
really
you.
do rank it up there with Cheers, even though I think your character is more like an Archie Bunker for the 21st century. And that
Mm.
really came out in that episode. So, can you talk to us just about that plot line where, there's a gay pride parade outside?
Yeah.
He's uncomfortable. And then these guys come in and he tells them, oh, no, I'm not gay. I don't hate gay people. And then
Yeah.
where that takes us and how it felt to what that meant for the character.
That first episode, I mean, and thank you very much for saying that, being compared to Carol O'Connor and Archie Bunker is the biggest compliment because, wow, fantastic character, fantastic actor. And so to be mentioned in the same breath is, it's humbling. I think the success of that first episode came about because the writing was great, the storytelling was great, but we had fully formed characters and we could hit the ground running like that because we had done the stage version of the play for a number of years. So I knew the character of Appa backwards, inside out. He was somebody I was intimately familiar with, had portrayed on stage over 1,000 times. Jean Yoon, who played Oma, same with her. Like we knew these characters. And so putting them into a show, into a scenario where they were just faced with these different storylines was easy. And there are a lot of shows when they're just trying to figure out the pilot episodes, you got great actors, but they don't know the characters as well. They're not intimate with them.
They're still
they're
figuring
still
it
figuring
out.
them out.
Yeah.
And for us, we knew that. And so I think that gave it such a solid foundation and deep roots that is very, very hard to replicate unless you know these characters as intimately.
That's very interesting because you think about a lot of other sitcoms, right? Like Parks and Rec, for example. Like
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
every single episode of that show, but there's a lot of people that say, you skip the first season, they're still figuring it out and by on. But that is an excellent point with you and Gene having already been in these shoes for so long, why
Yeah.
that show truly hit the ground running
Yeah.
from episode 1.
And it's that whole idea of it being a lived experience as well. And that links back to the writing because, Ince was adapting moments of his play into the TV series. And, there's something so absolutely refreshing and comforting and challenging about being able to play a character that you are so familiar with, that you recognize. When I first read for the first sort of draft of Up, way back in the day when when Ince was developing the play and workshopping it, I looked at it and went, I know this guy. Oh my God, I know this guy. This is my dad. This is my uncle. These are my grandfather. These are all these stubborn Korean men I know. And I was like, I know how to play this guy. And it's that feeling, that self-assuredness and the confidence of knowing, okay, I know how he's going to react to these situations, and I know how to make it real and how to make it funny too. And so that's what happened. And so when we came in, it was this lovely sort of moment where he's at the beginning, and one of the customers, I think his name is Roger, comes in, and played by Paolo Santalucia, who is now the artistic director of Soul Pepper Theater, which premiered Kim's Convenience. How about that for a nice little nerd cut? So he played Kevin, who was Roger and Kevin. Kevin was played by another wonderful actor. But him sort of going, like, no, I don't, this is, you a gay town boy? It's like, and the homophobia is there, but then it's the whole like, no, there's a poster that's too messy. You have to fix. It says, do you have a problem with gay people? It's like, no, I don't have a problem with the gay people, but I have a problem with what the parade bring. Everything too noisy, lots of garbage, all these. He's like throwing up all these different reasons why he doesn't like it. And then when he's confronted with it, he's like absolutely backpedaling and stuff. And it's this whole, I think it's a mirror on regular society. Everybody wants to be the good guy, but when they're confronted with like, sound a little bit racist, a little bit homophobic, they immediately go on the defensive, and they start to throw in other reasons. It's like, why can't gays be quiet? Like, yeah, you're gay, but can't be quiet gay, like Anderson Cooper. Right? Why? Like, I am a Korean, but I don't scream, I am Korean, I am Korean, I'm Korean. And so, like, him trying to equate those things is just so, in his world, he's just trying to justify it. You listen to it out loud, it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's absolutely real. And I think that's why that works, because we can sort of see elements of that, either in ourselves or in people that we know, family members, friends, and whatnot. And I think that's really what set this show apart in terms of content, storytelling, performance, right? Because we weren't playing with the big canned laugh track. We weren't trying to play the joke. We were always trying to play the truth, and the laughs came from there. And we were very fortunate because we were able to start the show off with such a solid foundation.
I love that so much. And you've spoken many times too about how and that example, I think, is a great or that episode is a great example of representation in pop culture. And that show, obviously showing this immigrant Korean family, it's first generation with the kids, and how they're confronting all of these different societal issues, and then taking those sorts of things and bringing representation to other live action shows that you've been in, or nerd culture. Can you speak a little bit about how that has played a role in your career?
Oh yeah, oh my God! Like, I mean, Kim's Convenience was a launching pad for my career. I mean, I've been. It's very funny because it's sort of like when somebody bursts onto the scene suddenly, or they're recognized for something and they're new. It's like, oh my God, it's an overnight sensation. 20 years in the making, right? Like, I've been working for quite a while in the industry, and I was a journeyman actor. My speciality was exposition, because the types of roles that were afforded to me that I was able to audition for back in the day were very slim. I wasn't good looking enough or young enough looking to play these
Stop it.
parts. Yeah, I was
I
bald.
see what you're doing.
I was
Fishing
fat,
for compliments. Come
yeah.
on.
So, but
Everyone
it
in
was
the
these things.
comments, tell Paul how
Yeah.
beautiful he is.
Tell Paul he's good. He needs our help. Clap if
Aw,
you believe that Paul is
that's-
beautiful, everybody.
That's me fishing. That's me fishing. Caught me. But the kinds of roles back then they weren't real characters. They were caricatures, right? Really sort of disposable, and written by non-Asian characters,
It must have been
writers.
hard to take those roles too.
Oh,
that
yeah.
or like, were they? Was it? I mean, I don't want you to call out specific roles.
No,
if you
I
don't want
mean,
to.
it's
But
just
I
the
mean,
way
was
it
it
was.
embarrassing, or how did you?
Ryan, when you're starting off, everybody says it. You're starting off in the business. You're gonna get a lot of shitty parts. That's the way you got to earn your stripes. You got to go. You got to eat those shit
Pay your
sandwiches.
dues. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right.
like, you got to build up your career. But when you've done that, and you're doing that, and you keep doing that, and that's all that's available for you, and you kind of feel like a piece of garbage, because it's like, oh, we've gone so far. I've gone from victim number 1 to thug number 2, right? Or whatever. I
Right.
mean, it's that whole, and the types of roles, especially because they were written by non-Asian writers, and this was their idea of like, oh, this is how Asian people are. Kind of, oh yeah, with that really bad accent, like especially when you read out they try to write the accented broken
Oh
broken English.
God. Oh
Yeah,
no.
but then
Yeah.
there's that point where it's like, well, gotta eat, and if I don't take this, someone else will.
Right.
So at what point you have to make a choice? At what point do you kind of go, how much of my soul am I willing to sell out before I say no?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right.
how much do I need this gig? How much do I need the money? Because it's awesome. Like, being able to stand on principle is awesome. You can't feed yourself on principle.
Right.
I will never judge anybody for taking a role because they needed the money.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's a fact of life. Back then, it was normal. Nobody ever sort of blinked an eye at like how really badly written these non-white characters were. And it wasn't just the Asian community. It was all of them.
I was gonna say,
Right?
I've heard stories from, Black actors saying like, they're going in and to read for a role and then they're what is the term? It's like be sassier, right? Like that's the
Right.
they want
We're
the
looking
Give
for
me
a
more
more urban.
urban.
Exactly,
More urban.
exactly.
Can you make
And
them a little
Right.
bit more
it's like
street?
the most offensive thing you could possibly
Yeah.
say.
They want you to put on the organ
The
grinders sort of like
costume.
dance.
Yeah.
Put on do the little dance around for them. And it's
Oh,
you
I
kind of sit there and
hate
you go,
it.
but that was what the industry was
Right.
like used to. This is what they thought it was. And that's how disposable these characters really were. They're like, no, we have a rich diversity of characters. They're all in the background. They're all totally caricature. They don't serve the narrative. They are
We get
literally
one
just window
line,
dressing.
yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, it's
And the
one of those
defining
things.
trait was usually their ethnicity and not their character,
That's it. I mean,
especially in the 90s. And so when you were getting your start.
I would hate whenever we got a breakdown for auditions and you'd see the sides, they'd have the character breakdown, and you could tell who the white characters were and who the non-white characters were supposed to be, because the white character was just a name, a full description of who they were, their wants, their likes, blah, 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 their relationships. And then you'd get these other characters with their name and in the brackets, and I hate this term, open to all ethnicities.
No.
That's the way it was. Open to all
Oh,
ethnicities.
wow.
You go, okay, so these are all the
Not white.
parts I'm
And
not
it's
allowed to.
basically.
it's
Yeah.
insane to me to think that, I more than likely saw you in roles like Harriet the Spy, for example, and didn't even, and here's this actor who is, it turns out years later, we discover is so great at what you said earlier, which is playing the truth and understanding the core of how a person thinks and feels. And you bringing up that you relate to underdogs, I thought was, I just a light went off in my head because that makes you the perfect Uncle Iroh,
Right.
who is this person who was part of this evil system. He went to war. His son died. Oh, it gets me every time thinking about
Yeah.
the Ba Sing Se episode. Who lost his son, and obviously we don't have that story in season 1, and I'm not going to ask you to spoil season 2, but there are these wonderful moments with your character where they added in the lullaby
Oh,
and
yeah.
the score
Yeah.
that just tore me apart, man.
That's
You
a
are
cheat
so
code.
great.
Thank
It
you.
really was.
That is
but
like,
it
that
worked. I
is
mean,
so,
you're-
yeah.
You're so great in that role. I mean, what was it like? Did you watch the original series?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what was it like getting that part?
Well, I was gonna
I'm
say,
talking Uncle Iroh.
how did
You know,
how
it-
did getting that part how did that part come to be? Was it something that you heard of the show and were like, oh my God, I need to audition? Or
No, okay. So it's a very funny story, actually. So in, I guess, 2018, it was announced that Netflix was developing the television series, and Brian and Michael were involved, and everybody was all like and the fans rejoiced because it was going to be correct all the missteps from the movie back in like 2010 or 2014.
I forgot about that.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
I
I
blacked
mean,
that
There's a
out.
movie?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was gonna
yes,
say. I
Never heard
completely
it before
blacked
just
that
now.
out.
Wow, it's crazy.
the scars run deep, and honestly, it's too easy to punch down at this point.
Sure.
That movie was, I think they underestimated the fans. I think studio had a lot of part to play in it. I've heard that there was a longer cut of that movie, which
Mhm.
actually would have addressed a lot of
Mhm.
what the fans thought was wrong. But I mean, that's water under the bridge. 2018, they announced that I got fan cast almost right away because I was
Oh.
playing up on Kim's Convenience, and it went, oh my
Nice.
God.
Yeah,
And
the
just based on
timing.
how I
Yeah,
looked,
yeah.
yeah, and because my character had an accent, they're like, this guy, right?
Oh yeah, because that was pre Carson Teva by a
Yeah.
few
That's right.
years. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. And so I was already committed to Kim's Convenience. They had number one position on me. And so there was no way production was going to let me go to another show that would take me out for so long, right? And as it was their right contractually, and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's very flattering when you see that as an actor. You kind of go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But back then the fans didn't have as much pull as they do nowadays in terms of like metrics, and you look at the algorithm, you kind of go, oh, this might actually be something. Studios are looking way more at those numbers now than they used to, and I thought it was really cool. And then what ended up happening was, Ji Yoon, who played Oma, she said, "Hey, you're a nerd. You'd love this series. I just finished watching it with my son, Avatar: The Last Airbender." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I watched it, and I think it was in 2017. She told me to watch that, and so I sat and I watched it. And was like, "Oh, it is really cool. That's awesome, right?" So 2018, I get fan cast. That's cool, and then nothing from it. Like the show sort of goes through its ups and downs. Brian and Michael leave the show. There's a bit of scorched earth policy happen, with what went on. I've heard both sides, so it's very interesting.
We all got kind of busy during 2020 with some other
Yeah,
stuff, which I'm sure pushed it back a little bit.
We all
Right.
decided to take a long vacation in 2020,
Right,
and everybody
right.
just thought to kick back and relax. And then what happened was in 2021, and this happened really quick, they had already cast the majority of the characters. Kim's had ended. And I was doing The Mandalorian. And I got this audition, and it was like for this, what was it called? Blue Dawn.
Oh, whatever
Was what it was
the
called.
nickname,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
It was like Blue Dawn. I was like, what's Blue Dawn about? And I'm looking at it's a basketball movie. And I kind of go, I'm not a big fan of basketball.
Not Blue
but I like
Harvest,
sports
but
movies.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. And so, because everybody's a fan, the writers are fans, everybody's a fan, right? So there's always those interconnected deep cuts that are there with code names. And it didn't even dawn on me that this would be a code for something else, right? This is how naive I am. And so I read it, and I almost don't do the audition. And in it was for the part of Harold, who was used to be a prodigy, used to be a great basketball player, retired and became a well-respected coach in the collegiate level. And he comes out of retirement to mentor his young nephew, who is a basketball prodigy. Sounds so
Okay.
like, how could I have missed it? But I wasn't thinking of that. And so,
Why would
I
you
was
even?
like,
That's amazing, though, that they sent you. That's incredible.
yeah.
That it was
But
that
I mean,
coded,
they had written scenes that were very reminiscent of the scenes that we did, but not as they were
Really?
parallel, but
Yeah.
they made sense as a basketball.
Did you keep the sides?
Yeah.
I've seen some of the original
Wow.
sides for like Rey and Finn for the first auditions for Force Awakens, and they're not scenes from the film, but it is similar in that it's like adjacent. It's a cousin
Yeah.
too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They want to see
parallel
if you can
universe,
go
if you
through.
will.
Yeah, they want to see if you can
Yeah.
go through those beats or capture the
Right.
essence of those characters that they're looking for. And the
So
scene
Without
that
spoiling what you're auditioning for.
Yeah.
Did you work? I mean, I'm sure you're probably about to tell us this, but like, did you work just as hard on that basketball coach part as if you were auditioning for Avatar?
no, I almost
At least
it
you're
was
honest.
yeah, it was a taped audition. So I wasn't going into the room in person. I almost didn't do it because I'm lazy. And I was like, nah,
Wow.
I don't know. But then there was something about the lines were really easy. Like it was so well written. I was like, okay, I'll just do it. And it was fun. There were two scenes that they were really fun. And one was he's bringing his nephew. Can't remember the nephew's name, but he brought him to this underground basketball sort of game where it was just like, it's cutthroat. And he said, these are guys that aren't going to turn pro. And they're not, no quarter given, no quarter asked. They play hard, they play rough, but you learn more about the game than you'll ever learn in a regular sort of setup. And it was a really fun scene to sort of portray. And then the next scene was of me, and the character's name was different, but it was the Avatar. And there's a scene in season 1 where we're both in jail in Ba Sing Se, and we're talking about Zuko. And in this case, the sheriff comes in, gives me a rough time, and we're talking about my nephew who escaped and hopefully is able to be, is halfway home by now. But that one's very close to the scene that we did in season 1. And that was another easy scene to do. And so I submitted them and promptly forgot about it. And a month later, my agent calls up and says, "So you have a callback for Blue Dawn, and it's a producer and director session. And so they'll be there on your Zoom audition." And I thought, what the hell is Blue Dawn? Like, I couldn't remember it. Like, I could not remember it. And then we were like, oh, okay. I had to look it up. It's like, oh, the basketball thing. I was like, cool. I've always wanted to be in a sports film, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then, it's, casting will send the sides again. It's like, okay, great.
Wait,
So I get the sides from casting.
Sorry, at this point, did you not know it was a TV show yet?
No, it was like I had no idea.
You just
It was a
didn't
movie,
know
a
what
TV
it
series,
was.
nothing.
Okay.
Alright,
It's just like, because everything is layered in secrecy,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
just like
yeah,
you
yeah.
literally, it's like a cell in a resistance. Like the less you know, the less you can tell type thing.
Right.
But then casting sends me the sides, and I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I remember this. And then there's a note saying, says quite clearly, it said, the character of Harold, by the way, the character of Harold, that's not his real name. His real name is Iroh. And that's when I was like,
Did it-
what?
Yeah.
And that's when the
Oh,
other,
you named your character after the guy from Avatar? That's
Yeah.
weird for a basketball
No.
movie. Like, how
But that's
long
when
did it
everything
take for it to
kinda-
really sink in?
it,
Immediately?
like, I looked at it and was like, oh no, oh my God. And so
Yeah.
that's when it sunk in. It's like, fuck, this is for Avatar.
Sorry, and were they in the room with you when they revealed this? Did they get to see the
No,
look
no.
on your face?
I got
okay.
this in
It
an
was an
email.
email or something. Got
And
it.
I was
got
looking
it.
and going, and then the panic starts to set in. Because it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Right.
And so it was like,
That wasn't my best work. Like
This was- yeah. and I thought, okay, let's refresh.
Yep.
Let us
Well, you
Let
never
us refresh.
You never bring it to the dress. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like you want to save it for the real audition. So there's also that. So we breeze right past it because we're such Avatar fans. But Star Wars, man. I mean, you're
Yeah.
a lifelong fan. I think I see a couple figures behind you.
One or
Just a
two.
few.
Yeah.
That
Just-
Star Trek thing. I don't know what
Yeah,
that is.
man.
I want to know two things. I want to know, well, a lot of things actually. Can we start with just your fandom and what Star Wars like meant to you as a kid,
Oh
like
God.
even before you were involved?
Yeah. How much time do we have? This is
As long as we
honestly,
need for this
yeah.
for this set of
This
questions.
is
Let's go.
Star Wars. I have been a fan since I was 5 years old when my dad took my sister and I to see it in the movie theaters. It was a special occasion because my dad was an immigrant parent who had to work all the time. So to get any time with him, especially at the movies, was, I mean, that's hitting a jackpot. He could have
Mhm.
taken us to see the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and it wouldn't have mattered, right? Like it was, and
Or
on a
Smokey
side
and the
note,
Bandit, which was out
Yep.
at the same time.
yep.
Same plot.
Here's a little side note, fun side note. The first movie I ever saw was not Star Wars. It was Jaws.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. As a 3-year-old?
As a 5-year-old, because it
Okay.
was, so Jaws 2 came out in 1977. And back in those
Uh-huh.
days, if they were doing a
They
sequel, they
would-
would show the
Yeah.
first movie. And so
Yeah.
that's how I saw it. So that's how the math works out for that. And that Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. So just as an aside. So watching Star Wars, which was the second movie, and I'm a bit like, I love spending time with my dad, but at this point I was like, do I trust you? Am I going to get scarred by this too? But it was so much fun watching Jaws. I was like, it's got to be great. So that blew my mind because of all the special effects, the epic, like the Tantive 4 being chased by the Star Destroyer right off the top. The rebel fleet troopers taking positions to try to defend the boarding party that comes on board, then getting wiped out, seeing stormtroopers in armor, and then Darth Vader walks in. It's like, oh my God. It's a story about a young boy who dreams of bigger things.
Yeah.
And wants that adventure and wants to matter and wants to make a difference and being held back and all these different things. And I ate it up. And
Yeah, it sounds like
after
you might
that,
have related to that
Yeah.
too.
it was all about Star Wars. Because the toys
Mhm.
were coming out too, right? And
Did you,
I
did you
remember
get the
that summer.
cardboard
I was gonna
cutout
say, did you get the cardboard pre-order thing?
that they sent
yeah,
out? Yeah.
no,
Okay.
because my parents, they're like,
Yeah.
we're not going to buy toys for you. Come on.
Right.
This? No.
Make your own
So-
toys.
I live vicariously through friends who got them, whose parents were getting them. And that whole summer, we were at a camp. And I remember everybody at the camp, we recreated scenes from the movie. We basically played Star Wars. by recreating all those moments. And, the older kids, the cooler kids, they played all the leads, Han, Leia, Luke, Chewbacca, the droids. I was cannon fodder. One of the little kids who's like, hey, come on, you're going to be the rebel fleet trooper and you're going to get wiped out by these stormtroopers. I couldn't even be a stormtrooper, right? But it was so much fun just recreating all these scenes. And that just sort of blossomed. And so, Empire Strikes Back comes out in 1980. We've moved to Calgary, Alberta from Toronto. And my babysitter took my sister and I to see that. And that's the first time I remember seeing, being aware of a lineup being so long to get into the movies, right? And being absolutely blown away by that whole reveal, the ending. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But for everybody else, it's like,
for me,
whoa.
I'm trying to remember the reveal you're talking about. I guess I'll have
Right?
to watch it again.
Yeah, it's a rewatch. It's definitely worth it. It
Yeah.
holds up,
Okay.
which is great.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
episode 7. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
And by then, I'd been able to convince my parents to get me the toys, some of the toys, and so I got the Darth Vader, the case to hold the action figures, Han Solo, Hoth Han
remember
Solo,
well.
Robot, Stormtroopers. I got the little Star Destroyer playset, the Millennium Falcon, which was huge. That was I don't know what
Yeah.
I did to get that, but my parents got that for me, and the AT-ST. I wanted the AT-AT.
You had the AT-ST?
I had the AT-ST, and that
that's
felt like,
awesome.
honestly,
The
I
AT-AT was better.
such a
It could
No,
have
you
jerk.
want
had
the
the
chicken.
AT-AT, but
You want the
yeah.
chicken walker.
Well,
You
it
know
broke
what?
easy, right? Did yours break? Because they tended
No,
to.
I would make
Okay.
mine tap dance because, to be honest, I was a little disappointed. I got this is how ungrateful I was.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, you jerk. You got these
You got
toys,
the wrong
first of all, but
one. Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, it wasn't even that. Like, I was very thankful. Like, I never
Yeah.
told my parents. Like, but secretly, I really wanted the AT-AT.
Right.
But the chicken walker's like, oh, okay, look, I can make him tap dance. Like, there's a button on the back with like,
Yeah.
no, it's tap dancing. Look at that. Look at that. But the AT-ST was always destroyed. So it was always on
Yeah.
its side with a figure like hanging out of its bed.
Well, and the
type thing,
AT-ST was barely in Empire too. They were just like
Yeah.
kind of at the bottom of the AT-AT. So of course you
And
wanted
I
you wanted
remember-
Veers. You wanted Veers in the cockpit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember quite distinctly, like when people saw the chicken walker go by, they laughed.
Yep.
They were all laughing at him.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that's why
because
for
they're
me, I was
scary
like,
in Jedi, but yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Jedi, they redeem themselves because it's like, oh no, this is a killing machine.
Yeah.
Type thing. But so then
Cool.
I was firmly entrenched in the toys, and that's when, like, seriously, I think that's when I really became a collector, because it was like, oh, there are all these toys that I wanted to sort of, and because I would play with them. Was not interested in G.I. Joe, even though they had more points of articulation, because like I like G.I. Joes, but they weren't my jam. Transformers,
too
oh my
easy.
God. These two cartoons that are basically toy commercials, right? I had to stay in my lane. I had other friends who had the Transformers, other friends who had the Joes, but for me it was Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like that's my first love. That's who took you to the dance, and that's who you're gonna stay with.
Who took
right?
you to the tap dance, right? The AT-ST.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So how did that?
Heather,
And then-
Heather, that was
I
amazing.
got you. So how does that go from, you're collecting all the toys, you love that, to
Yeah.
like then you became a 501st member? Like
Yeah, well,
Did that happen? Yeah, prior to casting.
it did. It did
Okay.
actually.
Oh yeah, because you have a
So-
great story about the costumes. I remember we talked about on
Yeah.
our other podcast together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had your own flight suit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that, and that's the thing. So I've been a fan. So like I've read the books, comic books, the toys, and like throughout my entire life. I mean, I think once you become a Star Wars fan, you never stop being a Star Wars fan, really. I think for the majority of people that I talk to, and there are different levels of engagement with it, because there are times where you're like, okay, and you move on. But I mean, I've always been sort of hardcore into it, and read novelizations and comics, and
My man.
yeah. So I did Kim's Convenience. I worked really, really hard, and I had a little bit of TV money in my back pocket. And so it was this whole idea of, okay, so how am I going to treat myself? How am I going to treat myself? And here's another little side. I was a huge fan of Ghostbusters, and I'd always wanted a proton pack. And so I did some really, really deep research into it. And as a reward for myself, I built a proton pack after season 1 of Kim's Convenience. I spent about a year, almost 2 years, acquiring all the different greeblies, the parts, the kits that were necessary for the electronics, I scoured over multiple build threads, and I had all the pieces that I needed to construct a proton pack. So that's what I did. And it's kind of like when Alexander, when he conquered everything, he looked across his empire and lamented because he thought, what more is there to do?
Yeah.
And then Star Wars came galloping into the picture. It started with my kids because Halloween was coming. I had a rudimentary Jedi outfit that my wife had sewn the cloak for and the tabards and stuff. And it was like a really, really great starting costume for it. And I had the master replicas, Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber. And I thought, oh, but the armor, they'd like stormtrooper armor. And I saw that these people were making costumes for their kids. So I did research on that. And so I built a little mini TK stormtrooper costume for my youngest and my eldest because we had seen Rogue One. That's the first movie I pulled them from school. And we all went and saw Rogue One together. So it was kind of
Amazing.
like full circle. My
Yeah.
dad taking my sister and
Yeah.
I. So he wanted to be a shore trooper. And so I built those two costumes from kits that I got, painted them, fitted them, put the strapping on. And I was like, damn, that was fun. But I don't get to wear them. So I'm going to get one for me. And that's how it started. And the first costume was a TIE pilot. And it just sort of branched out from there. And now I have the 501st. That's Imperial based. That's all the Imperial costumes. The Rebel Legion is the other side. And they have very different sort of methods of approving costumes for being part of the organization or gaining membership, as it were. And I have an honorary sort of membership in the Rebel Legion. I pushed that off for so long, but I finally had to accept it because it was just getting rude. Because I wanted to get it on my own merits. Like I wanted to sort of earn it on my own.
You want to
accord
get by on your own steam.
Yeah, because I had
As
all the
Norman
pieces.
Osborn
I just didn't submit for approval because it's not weird. It's a different system of approval for the Rebel Legion than it is for the 501st. So
Okay.
it was just a little bit more intimidating for the Rebel Legion. So I put it off. But yeah, no, I have a few costumes.
So
And so this is all before.
yeah.
And this got sparked. The joining 501st came from when I was at a Starlight Foundation dinner. It was a Make-A-Wish thing, and they were members of the 501st there. And everybody else went inside because there was this sort of like a chamber where you walk through to get to the main dining hall. And I stayed in that chamber, and all I did was just yak and talk with the members of the 501st, who were fantastic. And they were like letting me know, oh yeah, you can totally join. This is what you need, blah, blah, blah. And that's what really sort of got me on my high horse to just sort of
That's
like, okay, let's
cool.
go. Let's build some stuff and have fun dressing up like plastic spacemen.
Is there a goal costume that you haven't done yet that you want to do?
I have several costumes that are still under various levels of completion. So I've had to stick a pin in terms of getting more costumes.
Until you
Currently,
finish.
I have a tank commander from Rogue One still. I need to build. I've got a TK from the sequel trilogy that I still have to trim and build. I have a Rebel Fleet Trooper, like the helmet, that I still have to build. I'd like to do an update on my X-Wing costume because now I have, there are different variations from the one that I have, which is an OT pilot costume, to something that's a little bit more in line with the Mandalorian suit. So the pilot costume that I'm wearing, because I have detailed pictures. So there is that as well. Oh my gosh. And then, watching Andor and like watching some of the ISB uniforms look really great. Some of the Rebel, troops.
Those
like all
Imperial
there's just
pants
so much.
do not look great. The pants with
Oh, the jog perms?
those.
Well,
Yeah,
but for a reason. I mean, they're meant to.
No, I
they're
know,
period
I
in their own way.
know.
But you
And
don't
it
want to
depends
walk
on the
around
flair.
with them
No
all
one,
day at a
no
con.
one looks at those and
Depends
goes,
on the flair.
"That's fashion." Like
That's badass. They go, that's fascist.
Yeah.
That's
There
what
you
they
go.
say, Heather.
Oh my gosh.
100%.
Ugh, I'm
So
ashamed of that.
you're a huge fan. You have these, you have these costumes already. You're
Yeah.
like, what was walking onto set the first day at like being in Star Wars?
It's one of the questions I get asked a lot is, did you use your own costumes for the show? Which is a great compliment. And the answer I always gives is no, because they have a whole department of professionals who do
Right.
that.
Right.
That's kind of their thing. Now, that's not to say they have used individual costumers'
Right.
armor, like in that first season of Mandalorian, they had the 501st from the Southern Garrison, SoCal
Yep.
Garrison, come in because they couldn't afford to build that many screen accurate costumes, and they didn't have the time for it. Whereas you have an
Here you go.
organization where they
Yep.
all have. Yeah, so let's kill two birds with one stone. Give a bunch of people the thrill of a lifetime. Make some great TV. But stepping on was just whenever you sort of join and you're part of a machine, and that's what it is, because at the end of the day, The Mandalorian was a TV show set in the Star Wars universe. I've worked on TV shows before, right? And so the nuts and bolts are pretty much the same. Every department they have. The jobs are the same, right? It's just there's nothing like really that is so spectacularly different, which is not true. But I mean, the nuts and bolts of it are the same. It's just like the content is different. And so, and the scale, obviously, because I'd work on a number of Canadian shows. I've worked on American shows shot in Canada, but I'd never worked on an American show shot in America, and especially something from Lucasfilm. And so immediately going into the wardrobe department was seeing all the costumes on racks and all the greeblies and the helmets and the boots and the pants and everything that was being constructed and the armor and things that were there that I recognized were like, why is that there? That's interesting. Like when I walked in, I remember one of the first things I noticed because I was building the costume was a Mud Trooper helmet. And I was like, from Solo. I'm like, I know that. And I see the face mask. What's it doing here? Because this is the Mandalorian. So why do they have these pieces here? And you find out later on in season 2, like all these little things. But like when you're there, you're only, I mean, at least for me, was only given a small slice of the pie, which is this is what you're doing, and that's
Here's your
it.
scenes.
I
Yeah.
have no idea what else is
your-
going on.
Was your first day on set in the cockpit?
Oh my God, yes. Was
Okay.
it?
And was it because in the BTS, for
Yeah.
first season, I don't know if they just for second season, did they have the X-wing in the volume or what was that
Yeah.
like?
I remember the volume. Yeah, it was in the volume. The cockpit was in the volume. There was the, no, my first day on set.
Insane.
Sorry,
got
my
to
first day
fly
on
in an
set
X-wing.
was with Carl Weathers directing. Nowhere
Oh,
near the
great.
cockpit. We were actually on the back
Speaking of
lot.
Ghostbusters, no.
Yeah.
I love Carl. Oh my God, it was just
Yeah.
what a fantastic man. How intimidated I was at the beginning. I've got a lovely
And can play
story with him.
anything. Could play comedy, could play, drama,
Yeah.
action, incredible
And he's
guy.
directing this episode, and he didn't cast me. I wasn't cast from Carl. He didn't know who I was, and which led to a little bit of the whole like, who are you and why are you here type thing.
Oh,
It was
funny.
like, it's okay. I can act. I actually I've won awards in Canada, but it's okay. But it was great, sort of proving myself to him and getting him to relax and kind of going, oh, okay, and sparking up a bit of a friendship, which was wonderful. And then getting him, and he watched Kim's Convenience, all of it, and then became a super fan as well, which was totally unexpected because I remember after the first day of like just working and working and working, he lightened up and he was he was more open and more relaxed. And he's like, so like, what have I seen? What have you been in? What can I watch you in?
That's so cool.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, yeah, there's a show called Kim's Convenience. It's, it's a Canadian show. It's on Netflix. It's like, oh, I'll watch it. I'm thinking, you're not going to watch it, but thank you for saying that. And then in season 3, him going, Paul, and like running across the back
Aw.
lot to me saying, I watched Kim's Convenience. Why are we not working together more? And that for me was just like,
That is incredible.
oh,
A guy who you also grew up watching.
Yeah.
I'm presuming, in the 70s
Right?
and 80s.
this is Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
This is Action Jackson. This is,
Yep.
this is Dylan from Predator. It is just, Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. The
Yeah,
guy
I was
was
about to say, yeah.
an incredible amount of range. Second time I was in town is when we did the volume, and I was in that X-Wing cockpit. And there's a part of me that's still there, still flying around in that, because they had this whole chase sequence where we're chasing the Razor Crest down Muldo Crease, in through the atmosphere, and we did it like 8 times, just going through and like, you
Were
know,
you screwing up takes on purpose so
no,
you'd have to do it again? Okay.
no,
Well, because if
no,
people don't know that what they would do is they took the X-wing, and then or the cockpit or set or whatever, but that you were filming with the stuff around you because it's the
yeah,
volume. So
yeah.
it must have like that, just in case the audience doesn't know, it must have felt like you were Luke Skywalker on the trench run.
It is better than any ride, like roller coaster
Mhm.
you can be on. It is a simulation, right? Now, it's not to the point where wherever the stick moves is where the camera moves. There's a certain path that you have to take. You get used to that to sell the image of what you're doing. But it is, I mean, I used to do that in my head when I was 5 years old. I'd sit in a cardboard box and I'd draw out
Yeah.
little controls with marker, and I'd sit there with a pot on my head pretending it was a helmet, and I'd be doing the trench. I'd be doing that exact same. And as an adult, when you're sitting there and you're in a cockpit that was used in Rogue One, working lights, buttons, switches, a canopy that closes down, a flight stick, you're in full costume with a helmet, and then they have state-of-the-art digital technology where you are surrounded by ILM stagecraft or the volume where it's a high-definition image being projected even on the ceiling. And your cockpit, like what you're sitting in is bolted to the ground, but everything else is moving. You feel like you're flying. It's like there's that disconnect where I remember I was sitting there and they had the star field and the guys at the Genius Bar, which is what they call the controllers for the volume,
Mhm.
they just made the star field go, and I was like, oh, and I was grabbed because I thought I was doing barrel rolls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Peyton Reed,
Wow.
who's the director, said, yeah, okay, if you ever get sick, just look at the console, don't look out, because that's the reality. Your eyes are like, you're not really moving. Everything else is.
Wow. That's so cool.
I never thought I'd be able to experience something like
But so
that.
what I'm hearing, much like Kim's Convenience, right, when you did the TV show, you had already played this role in your head since you were 5 years old, and so that's why you were able
Right.
to just jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, and that's the lovely, I read some lovely compliments. I mean, I'm cheap that way, and I go on to Reddit, and years later, just sort of looking, and a few fans thought that I was part of the original trilogy as a cameo. Like, who's this guy? Why is he here? He must have been in the original trilogy.
Well, because
I
they
don't
had
know.
done that. They did that in Rogue One and stuff, though, right? Like
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Oh, you mean when they they spliced in the footage, right? It's Carson Teve is one of those characters. Every time I see him pop up, I know we're in for a good time.
Mhm.
Oh,
It
wow.
reminds me of Agent Coulson, who didn't die, who did
Right.
not die because of Agents of Shield. But it reminds me of Agent Coulson being this connective glue between these shows.
Yeah.
So not only do you get to be in Star Wars, but you hopefully get to be cannon fodder in a future project to build the characterization of other. No, I'm joking, but like it is great to see that character pop up because Star Wars is so hard. You have all these different creators making very different things in different corners. So just to have this guy pop up who lets us know, hey, here's what's going on with the New Republic through a great story device. Like I'm one of the people who really loved Mandalorian season 3, especially that episode that showed Pershing on the planet and everything. And when you were pushing to get help on the Mandalorian planet, I loved all that because you're showing us the ineffectiveness of the New Republic.
Yeah.
My problem with the sequel trilogy was always, how did these teenagers screw this up? Why is the
Right.
Empire back? And I think your character is an important building block for fans.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm so the Agent Coulson reference or comparison again is delightful and so humbling. And it's great. And it's fun to have this character blossom into that type of role. I think when I first started off, it was kind of going to be, I think in their eyes, it was like a wait and see. Let's see
Mhm.
how he does with this, and maybe we'll continue with him or maybe not. And so luckily they keep asking me back, which is like everything after the first 2 episodes is gravy for
Mhm.
me. Like I'm thinking this is awesome. And so to be able to build that sort of that role, but to play that function, as you say, in terms of, being that expositional storyline that shows how bloated the democracy is in the New Republic, and how like it's easier to be a band of freedom fighters when you don't have to answer to all these authority. You can act on a whim without any worries about consequences, versus actually having to run things, right? You look at that and you go, isn't that how the old Republic sort of went down because of the bureaucracy? I mean, that's what, they argue in the Death Star. It's like, how can the Empire function without the bureaucracy of the Republic, right? It's like, no, the regional governors will
say
take
what
control.
you will about the Empire, but you always knew who was in charge.
Well, and it was one of those things where people like, as long as the trains are running on time type thing.
Yeah.
It's a really weird.
That's the kind of screwed up hot take that we like for our last segment here called Hear Me Out, where Heather and I and a guest, if you want to join in, if you don't, feel free to be a spectator. We say take a topic, a theory, whatever, just something to gin the juice for the comments down below. Harriet's somebody else. Heather, do you have, Harriet's an editor who just slacked me. Heather, do you have anything for Hear Me Out?
Well, Harriet's also the spy.
Yeah, I know. Full circle
Full
with
circle.
the intro, baby. I love it. I love it.
I do have one. So I'm just gonna have a Hear Me Out hot take on. I think the Shore Trooper is the best stormtrooper that the Star Wars universe has, and I don't think it's like an even close comparison. It has the most practical armor design.
Okay.
It looks like they might actually survive field conditions. It's tailored towards coastal warfare. It has reinforced plates, the tactical pouches. The color palette makes sense for the environment that they're in, and I just think it's a refreshing departure from just like white plastic.
Hey, quick question related to Stormtrooper armor, since I'm here with both you guys. The original intent of that design was so they could be spacesuits. Can they function in space? Or are they like, because there's not like a vacuum seal when they take their helmets off?
No, those are not practical.
Because the Mandalorians do have a vacuum seal in their helmet. All right, this is for another time. I can tell already. Dead air.
No.
Here's mine. Okay, so on the channel, it's a little awkward to have somebody who was in Book of Boba Fett when I've been like critical of the show, but I don't hate the show, right? We talked about this beforehand when I said I was sorry. But there's one thing in the show that people kind of maligned online that I love, and I will defend this moment because I think this moment is what the show is about. During that great final episode, to pour out all your action figures and play with them all at the same time, one of the mods does a completely unnecessary spin before he shoots. And it's one of my favorite things in the Disney era of Star Wars. These stories are fun. Like George Lucas said, they're made for 12-year-olds. And when you're a kid and you have to be the stormtrooper, whatever you're playing, that's the kind of dumb shit you do. And it looks cool and it's fun. I love that moment. Like for me, every other thread in that season really came together. And that like last 40 minutes.
Specifically that spin.
It was. No,
Yes.
seriously. I think you can say I would make a video if I thought anyone would watch it but you two, called Here's Why That Spin Works.
Well, spinning, it's a neat trick.
It is a neat trick. Thank you for that. Paul, did you have anything you want to chime in on and Hear Me Out?
Oh, so I didn't know it was something that I had contributed to directly. I thought I was
You
just
don't
going
have
to
to.
piggyback on.
No.
You don't have to.
whether
You
you
can
guys
bow
say-
out right now and walk away with honor if you want.
First,
It's okay.
No. First of all, I think I was only in Book of Boba Fett for like 30 seconds. And so you don't have to feel bad if there is parts of that didn't work for you.
And it was the
The
best
best
part
30
of the I was gonna
seconds
say, the
apart
best
from the
part of the
spin.
show.
Yeah, so there's that. Yeah.
So in that vein, and I agree with you, I think, with what the way you describe the spinning move and how it works for you and how it is actually designed just to be cool, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think sometimes as adults, we look at things a little bit too pragmatically because you have a wide gamut of realism that is portrayed in the Star Wars universe. I mean, and the universe can take that, right? So you can have the absolute sort of truthful, authentic sort of like parallels to modern day society in Andor to the spin around move in Book of Boba Fett. And I think it all works. And I think that's great. Heather, I agree with you. I think the Shore Trooper armor is absolutely the most practical. My son wears it. You can sit down in it. It's way more functional. It's way more practical. And it does look super cool as well. And Shore Troopers are actually designed to be superiors to the rank and file TKs, right? So they're often squad commanders, leaders, and whatnot.
I didn't know.
Their visors also allow for accurate shots.
There you go. Because it's one long visor instead of two eye holes.
Long, yep.
Yeah, like the Scout Troopers, right?
Yep.
Same.
My hot take is this. and I'm gonna bring it back. A lot of times, Carson Teva has been referred to as a traffic cop, like a policeman, right?
No, sir.
And it has been one of those things where it's like, oh, they're basically pulling people over and giving them tickets and this and that. And I would posit that no, he's still a soldier. They're still soldiers, right? They're not going out looking for rinky dinky. When you're first introduced to them, they're looking for Imperial remnants, right? Which in his mind is like they're out there. And so it's not like a traffic stop to hassle people. Here's a ship without a transponder that is refusing to send out signals, and then that runs, right? His job is not to help him afterwards when he's, when he says, why don't you help me put the ship together? Like, no, why don't you fix it yourself and think about that the next time you try to run from us, right?
Yeah.
So, and the same thing with in terms of the Book of Boba Fett, because they say, well, they call in and he tries to stop the N1. It's like, because the N1 is buzzing around a commercial starliner. If you had a plane nowadays flying around a commercial plane, they would send out, not the police, they would send out a military jet to intercept and assess the situation. So my posit is Carson Teva and the New Republic, the Rangers, the Adelphi Rangers, are not cops. They're a military unit that is severely underfunded and overextended.
Well, there it is.
I can't argue with that. Well, Paul, yeah, it's been incredible talking to you. Thanks for sharing your fandom. And honestly, like there's a million things I hope we have you on again because we didn't get to a lot. I want to talk about the EU novels for an entire hour at some point. But until then, again, thank you so much. I have been here with Heather Antos.
I am here with Ryan Airy.
And of course, guys, be sure to subscribe to us on every major podcast platform. And if you want to know, if you have any comments about who we should have on next, let us know in the comments below, or you can add any of us on our socials. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.